The creative process is something I've been interested in all my life. Any form of artistry, the process is the same almost always. And that is an interplay between the intellect and the intuition. In the collaborative art, there is usually one voice ultimately. It's usually somebody who not only has the inspiration for the first idea, but has got the mechanism, the skill, the craft to actually progress it and make it a full work. The person who has that has to do one very important thing, and that is create the strategies with which everybody else can work. They have to be coherent, elegant, holistic strategies that unify the piece. The skill that I see in great filmmakers, I now see in Kojima-san's work.
You love her. There it is.
Oh, that's strong. Very strong. Yesterday I saw Death Stranding. I was overwhelmed by what I saw. We're in the hands here of a master in terms of visual representation, taking out of the imagination and making it real on a screen. But that's, to some degree, the necessary surface of the thing. I think thematically, the player is being invited into an experience that is very, very profound and very deep. The purpose of story is to make meaning out of life. I mean, it's fundamental to us. It's the only way we can explain the world and our existence. What's great about Kojima-san's work is the way that you take games and you take what we call cinema and overlaps the two.
My body may be present, but my soul is on the beach. I'm already dead.
Story is a kind of a tricky word because story is not just plot or a series of events. Stories are really the experience offered up to the audience. You can tell a series of events, but in the way that you orchestrate it, just as you might take a group of notes and play them, but not in an inspiring way. But if they do have an elegance in their orchestration, they have meaning to you. That's what powerful story is. And that's what I sense there. Issues of morality, the purpose of life, the proper conduct of life, all the things that all great stories deal with. To take the notion of death and play, it seems to be a very, very original way to do it. It's something deep down, one way or another, we all confront. That's already interesting. To have this sort of game which seems to be non-violent in the more traditional way, and yet connect you to the rest of the world. Something I've always thought was really interesting. Everything in this room, everything on the roadways we travel, carry with them a tremendous amount of history. We walk in each other's paths, and that's what's happening in this game. So even though you're alone, it seems to be you're following paths of complete strangers, and yet somehow they have an effect on you. That's a very, very powerful analogy to what happens in life. It feels to me that the player can have that experience made manifest before them in a very direct way and in a very original way. When you put things out there into the world, you really don't know. You can anticipate what it might be like, but it takes quite a bit of time before the world tells you what the work is like. Sometimes it takes a long, long time. There's famous stories of artist Van Gogh who had no idea that his paintings were going to be so significant. And I think that happens with so much work.
Glad you made it.
That's another thing about Kojima-san. I mean, he's proving to be a master in this new arena, relatively new arena, and bringing all the skills of filmmaking, of drama, of design, and putting it into a work, and we get meaning from it. That's the difference between something that's just on the surface and something that's very profound. I like to describe it as having a lot of iceberg under the tip, and I feel that this game has a lot of iceberg under the tip.
See, it's like I'm not even here. Same as it ever was.
There's no cultural evolution unless new ideas are offered up. Often they're provocative, often they shift the norm to some degree, but there is no evolution unless that happens. That's the history of all creativity. That doesn't come easily. Oh, I'll just do something radically different. Because something can be radically different and basically alienating. It's just, there's nothing to connect me to it. It takes a much more sophisticated level of thinking to actually make something like that work. To understand where the world is today and where it might be down the track, and then to interpret it according to his own creative impulses. And that's where the creative courage comes in. Somebody like Kojima-san who's prepared to push the boundaries. And that's why his work is so important.